Hi, my name is Jason McGee. I'm a digital tourism consultant and I've recently come back from a family holiday in Lake Garda in Italy. As well as enjoying a beautiful holiday, I just wanted to share some experiences that I had while in holiday, probably with my tourism hat on, as I experienced the holiday, that probably we could learn a few things in Ireland. Now, Lake Garda, when I googled how long people had been holidaying in Lake Garda, it goes back to the Roman times. So they have a pretty big advantage on us from that point of view. But their tourism organisation in Lake Garda is about 100 years old. So we need to bear that in mind when we're doing some comparisons to Ireland because we have a relatively young organised tourism sector here. So um, what I just want to do was bring you through about 10 slides and some observations about the experience. If you look at the slide on the screen now, this is Camp Bella Italia at the very bottom of Lake Garda, and that's the view, which is beautiful. It's overlooking the Alps. Lake Garda is about 65 miles long, and it has a thriving tourist trade in the summer. We were there just as the season was opening, so we probably benefited from not so many crowds and got to probably see a lot more and do a lot more without having to stand around too much. So let me bring you to the experience. So before we traveled, our travel company sent us a very innovative travel pack. It was a PDF about 6 pages long, and it included contact details for our tour rep Giuseppe. Now this was about 48 hours before we traveled, and when I looked through this document, it was a superb digital document that had all of the information that I might want to know before I travel. So had ferry information, trains, buses. That this was all for pre-planning when I got to the destination. It had tips. It had clickable maps, which I thought was really innovative. As somebody who works in the digital space, we tend to trend towards apps and websites when we think of tourists, but really this was just a PDF, which makes it printable. It also makes it clickable and savable, and it's usable by anybody from 9 to 90 years of age. So I really thought this was very, very clever. Second thing was that Giuseppe added me into a WhatsApp group and became a virtual tour guide for the entire duration of the stay. I didn't ask him to do that, but it was extremely helpful because when we were in holiday and in destination, Giuseppe was on hand all the time. Within reason, I didn't send him any requests in the middle of the night for information, but if I wanted to know how much a taxi would cost, how much a bus would cost, where it runs from and to, he would respond back, not instantly, but relatively quickly with that piece of information. It was extremely reassuring to know that I had a tour rep on call, on hand, all of the time. And I haven't come across that before, and I think that's something that we could learn from if we had people who might be available in tourist office and or as tourist guide within certain hours and within certain days, that they could be contactable or even added into a group, which I was, for the duration of my stay. So not only did I learn from Giuseppe, I learned from other holiday makers who shared information on tips and things to do. Okay, just a quick observation on the flight experience. Dublin Airport is one of the best airports, if not the best airport in the world, never mind Europe. I've been through about 30 airports, and even though people say Dublin Airport is busy and expensive, it is like its own mini city, and it's part of the holiday experience. People's holidays start at the airport. I thought that something that might be missing is for the destination or the carriers. There might be an opportunity to prompt people for the country that they're flying into. On the back of the Ryanair seat, there were QR codes on how to order a sandwich on board and how to order a coffee, which I didn't find that useful because all I had to do was ask the stewardess for that. What I thought was is that if there was a QR code there that gave me information about Italy that I was heading into, that would have been more useful, or tips for travelers or something like that. Now, That's not how Ryanair make money, but it's something that we should be thinking about. That where are the information points within airports for Ireland and their carriers? Is there a digital PDF that could be downloadable when I'm on board in flight? And I know there's all kind of technical stuff around that, but it's just strikes me that there's a missed opportunity there. So when we were traveling, when we landed in Bergamo Airport's very nice. It's a very eye-catching airport. It's really stylishly painted, really modern art painting on the outside of it. It stands out when you see it. And then we travelled down the main motorway for a while, and then deviated off across country to our destination. Now, what struck me was, I think there was a deliberate effort to take a secondary road by the tour company to improve the experience. We were winding through wineries and old parts of Italy, and it made the travel journey much nicer, much better. Um, Maybe we tend to think, let's get the tourists to the destination as quickly as possible down a main motorway. Well, in this case, we got there. It took about an hour and 15 minutes, and it was much nicer that we were going through wineries while the tour guide was explaining, this is on your left, this is on your right, this is what you're going to experience over the next week. Something's just a bit more considered. Okay, when we got to the destination, it was a real wow experience. The Campello Italia is right at the bottom of Lake Garda, as I said, and Lake Garda is a beautiful, beautiful lake. It attracts hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people every year. And what I noticed was a very considered sense of placemaking. If you look at the picture, what you'll notice is it's not overly cluttered with signs, barriers, infrastructure, with cabling, cabinets that we would often see on streets in Ireland. They've even painted the fencing that's on the right of the greenway to match in with the bushes. And you'll notice that there's a distinct lack of signage on the water side of the lake. That's no accident. When I was relaxing there, I was thinking about how we do this in Ireland. We have a lot of be careful, don't swim, don't litter, don't this, don't that, and it's an excessive amount of signage that we have. They have very deliberately not done that. And what I also noticed was where they have services like electricity or plumbing to the nearby buildings, they put them into cabinets and then clad them with terracotta stone so that they're hidden. You don't even notice them. I only saw two, and I actually went over and had a look to see what they were like, and they were electrical service boxes that were covered with terracotta stone. So that's the level of thinking they've gone through around that. The other thing is around greenways. The path you see to the right is a greenway to Peschiera, which is a little town next up. I'm going to show you some photographs of that. And what I noticed was people didn't take the main road that they could have taken outside of the park to get to Peschiera. They used the greenway. So greenways were a hive of walkers, cyclists. It has its little own ecosystem. People tend to pop up with coffee shops and canoes and cycle hire. So where these greenways go in, they generate their own change in how people go from A to B, and their own ecosystem of how people are serviced when they're on the route. Okay, when we got to Peschiera, what I noticed was a distinct lack of traffic preferences within this village. There's very much a sense of this is a place where you walk, this is a place where you cycle. There are cars and there were buses, but they seem to be very much secondary. Police were directing some traffic, but they were quite content to let that traffic stay as long as, stopped for as long as they want, where people who are walking and cycling have the right of way. This happens just to be a parade that was on when we were there, but just to give you a sense of it's people on foot over cars is the trend that I saw right across Lake Garda. This is when we were in Peschiera and we wanted to go and take a boat trip. And what I noticed was the level of thinking that goes into the tourist experience here is mature. What they have is they have booths at the end of each of these piers on the walking paths up to where you get the boat, with pricing in multi languages, and with people who are decked out so that you know that this is a boat hire company. It's well thought out. And what I mean there is, it would have been easier for them just to go, oh, come to us at the boat, which is in the foreground over there. So you have to walk all the way over to find out how much it costs and what time it's going to leave at. No, what they have is booths much closer to the walking path. And even the walking paths, if you look, what I noticed on the right hand side was those mature trees in certain places have naturally grown through the paths and broken the paths up. And a concerted effort has been made to repair the paths back in and retile them instead of just putting tarmac down, to have a more considered way of preserving the tourist experience. So everything is being thought out. This is an example of an innovative experience in Peshira, which is a walled town that has a lake that goes around it. You can see the battlement wall there on the right hand side. Somebody has said, okay, well, not alone can you experience gondolas in Venice, let's put a gondola pier around this lake and take people out on gondola trips. So that's an example of really raising the product and the experience on the waterway around there. And that's the level of thinking that we probably should be at here, is that let's give a visitor a real wow experience, something they haven't expected to experience in a beautiful setting like that. So quite clever whoever came up with that one. Dining out, lots of beautiful restaurants. The dining out experience in Italy is world class. They tend to eat lighter, and because it's warmer, so there's lots of pastas and pizzas and meals like that. Less preference of big meals that we would associate with chicken or steak or fish, because they're just smaller cuts of meat that are put into pastas. So although you feel loads of energy, you don't feel as full or as tired after eating a meal. So a different way of eating. But what I noticed for the dining experience was every restaurant had the menu displayed outside, so that the tourist who's walking by sees how much it costs. And the menus typically were in 3 languages: French, German and English, and they had QR codes on them, so when you scanned them they were converted into the language that was on your phone. So that's the level of thinking around servicing the tourists in the restaurant areas. In relation to tourist information, I went into 2 tourist offices. One was in Peshira, and the other one was in Verona, and they were fairly quiet, which surprised me. They were quite sparse on the inside, and 2 times that I went in, I only met elderly people who were there looking for information. Where younger families were finding information was via apps. It was very prevalent that when people were, sitting on a bus, they were on an app. When they were finishing their meal, they were on an app. They really wanted to find out the next thing to do. So the sense of information, I think we need to really think about. It's not so much in printed visitor material, and it's not so much even in larger national websites. It's in the sense of instant. What can I do today? Where can I hire a bike? How much does it cost to get on the bus? So we need to broaden our thinking around that, because these were the apps that I use. Obviously Ryanair, Bella Italia had its own app. Rome to Rio is an international app that tells you bus timetables, train timetables, very up to date, very instant, extremely useful. And then you have the in-destination apps like the Lake Garda Museums app and TripAdvisor. When I googled, one of the days was overcast, when I googled things to do in Lake Garda on a rainy day, I got the information on TripAdvisor. I didn't get it on the Lake Garda tourism website or even the Italy tourism website. It was on TripAdvisor. So we need to maybe put our thinking like that, is that our sense of in-destination planning and research, people are getting information in other places, and we need to think about how we reach those people. This is just an example of placemaking assets. So the sign that you see in front of you is a historical wayfinding sign and information sign in English and Italian, and it had its own QR code. So we are rolling these out in Ireland and have been for a few years now, but we need to have a sense of, are they bilingual? Are they connected always with a QR code? And do they add a sense of history to what somebody's looking at? I find them very interesting. There are about at least 20 or 30 of these around this old walled town, and people do stop and read them and get a sense of interest in the destination and where they're going. There's an opportunity via QR codes to upsell and side sell to tourists here. So can we bring them to a local tourist website as well as giving them historical information? On the right hand side, this is an example of innovation. The object that you see in green is a speaker, a music speaker. It was made by Bose, and there were other manufacturers are available, of course. There were about 20 of these around the river that you're looking at on the left and the right hand side in the pathways next to the trees. Obviously, whoever came up with the idea of putting the speakers in, it was to create a sense of atmosphere. The music that was being played there was classic Italian, maybe it was Pavarotti, but it was to create a sense of relaxation and give the visitor what they expect. It wasn't boom boom music, it was create a sense of place, a sense of authentically Italianness, and this is how they did it. My engineering brain was trying to figure out how, where was the music being broadcast from, how was it being powered, all that stuff. I didn't quite figure it out because it was done so neatly and so considerately that it impressed me. Okay, so something that we all do on holidays is share photography, share your photo of the pool, share your photo of the boat trip. But what I was impressed was on the left hand side, on the restaurant that's immediately next to the river, which we took the boat trip, on the bottom of the table numbering unit are two QR codes. So while you're sitting waiting for your coffee or whatever, it's encouraging you to scan those codes and share the picture of the boat trip that you've just taken on their Instagram page. That's quite clever. Because people are obviously have just experienced something that's really nice that they want to share. They're going to share it anyway, but this restaurant was saying no, share with and associate us. So it's a free way of promoting that restaurant with a tourism experience, and I thought it was quite clever. Just in the sense of destination upkeep, when we arrived into the destination, we were asked to pay about €40 tourism tax. I don't have a problem with tourism tax at all. I know it's a contentious subject, and I know some people do. But when you see the sense of cleanliness, safety, and upkeep that was in the destination in Lake Garda, you can only appreciate where the money is being spent. So from left to right, there were street cleaning machines that were going around hourly to clean up everything. There was a great sense of pride, and these were brand new machines. They were all electric, and even the staff were very immaculately done out. The second picture was around the destination orientation. So the street signage that was there, this was when we arrived into Verona, was sponsored by Spar, and so why not combine the two together? Why not give directions to the local Spar and then have the street signage sponsored by them? On the bus in the background, that was an electric bus, and the driver spoke 3 languages. It was air conditioned, Wi-Fi'd, electric, and the payment was just via tapping your card on a payment unit. There was no sense of download an app or go through all this complication. Very slick, very smooth, and the buses were very regular. They reminded me of some kind of local link service which we are growing in Ireland, but the buses were hourly, extremely prompt, extremely clean, and were there for tourists. And the map in the middle was in Verona, and that was a giant orientation map which really gave the tourist a sense of the red dot is where you are now, and it meant if you stayed on the left, the river on your left, you knew you couldn't get lost. So you wandered all around the centre of Verona and come back, and you would end up back at the bus area and get the bus back to where you're going. Verona is pedestrianised in the centre of it. It has a massive amphitheatre, and I know the efforts are underway to pedestrianise Dublin, and there are differing views on that. But if you want to see how it's done, go to Verona. Verona is completely pedestrianised. The massive centre of the city is pedestrianised. They have outer orbital services with buses and taxis, etc. But the centre of the city is all walking, all cycling, and it's really impressive to see that. Then on the right, right throughout our destination, Garda, we had these little trains. They're little electrified street trains that, again, naturally, as people are walking around all day, they're going to get a little bit tired. So at certain times of the day, they had these trains that bring you back to whatever destination you want to go. It's something we don't have too much of in Ireland, but it's something that we could think about. Okay, and lastly then, travelling back through the airport. Even though we don't have a train service from the city centre, so from the airport to the city centre yet, something that was very prevalent was large signage for bus and taxi services in Dublin. I often worry, what's the experience like for tourists coming in and their expectation of how to get to the city centre, because I've been to lots of airports where you just get on the train that's in the airport and you head in. But in Dublin, I took a bit of heart in that you're told all the way in on the signage through arrivals. Here's an advertisement for a bus company. There are other bus companies, and there was advertisements for lots of taxis app. And when I came through all the way through and exited the airport, there were about 40 taxis lined up there, and lots of buses too. So that's something that we're making the best of. On the right, what I thought was noticeable was the Guinness advertising for the storehouse through arrivals. And if you look, there's an entire hallway which is about 30 or 40 metres long with laminated pictures of the Guinness storehouse on the left and right, and views of Dublin. I think that's an extremely clever marketing device, because let's face it, people have heard about Dublin, they've heard about Guinness, they probably want to experience it, and lo and behold, the first thing they see when they arrive through arrivals is a massive 50-metre long mock-up of the storehouse, left and right on the walls. You go all the way through. Could we do something clever like that for the Cliffs of Moher, or for the Boyne Valley, or for Cork or Kerry or Belfast attractions? I think there's an opportunity there. So thank you for watching this video. It's just some of my experiences in Lake Garda in 2024, and if you want to get in contact, my email address is tourism@jazzcom.ie.